Everyone muses on the prospect of ever finding real love. They are more concerned with whether couples who are unknown have discovered such love. And when they see someone very young marrying someone considerably older, everyone is cautious and even worried, especially if the older person is wealthy. We can never be sure of someone's true motivations or the individuals they truly care about. However, Jennifer's intentions were never the best because she was a young woman who was notorious for wanting to fit in and taking advantage wherever she could. Being attracted by Alfred's enormous fortune, she tried to play the old trick on the old man, but little did she know what he had planned for her. Jennifer was a 25-year-old girl who worked at a pet shop. She bathed dogs, cats, and other pets all day, despite hating animals. She was only there for the salary, which was decent for her to survive, and the benefits she received, and deep down she was unhappy. He lived his days in a sad way for not being able to live the beautiful life he always dreamed of and not achieving his goals. In addition, the young woman did not like to spend her own money, making sure that whenever possible, someone else paid her bills, which always made it impossible for her to do many things she wanted. She would wake up early to go to work and come home late, deal with animals she hated, and think she was paid little for so much she did in that pet shop. He lived a monotonous life, going from home to work and from work to home. And it was when a friend of Jennifer's invited her to dinner at an expensive restaurant that her life would change forever. The restaurant, which was located in an upscale area of the city, was expensive, and Jennifer only agreed to go because her friend agreed to pay her share of the bill. Despite never having visited such a place, the moment she walked in, she felt like she was home. The place was upscale and packed with the richest and most sophisticated people in town. She was comfortable and felt a slight sense of power. Just being with these people felt better with them than she did when she was with her own family. Jennifer ate and drank the best that night, and on her way home, she saw a sign outside the restaurant that said they were hiring. The young lady decided immediately that she would return the next day and attempt to conduct a job interview. She got there early, before it had even opened to the public, and she was able to speak with Mr. Alfred, the franchise owner of the entire chain of restaurants. He didn't usually do the interviews, but because the young woman insisted so much, he decided to make an exception. The charming young woman who was asking the elderly restaurant owner for a job made him happy. Like, subscribe, and share this content with some friend. Help us to spread free valuable knowledge. She proved to be strong and focused on her goals, in addition to speaking very well and knowing how to behave in a fancy place like that. Mr. Alfred had no doubts she would be hired, and she would only work booking reservations, welcoming customers, and guiding them to their tables. Jennifer worked her first month impeccably, arriving early every day, and with her unusual beauty and insistence, managed to attract many new customers to the place. Leaving Mr. Alfred was very delighted with the young woman's work, as she began to make his restaurant look its best. What he didn't know was that this was all a plan by the young woman. At the job interview, she was able to spot the mark on Mr. Alfred and the pictures on the restaurant wall with a lady the same age as him. Jennifer realized he was a widower, and judging by his appearance, he was well into his 80s. So, she decided to try to seduce the old man and make him fall in love with her, knowing that by his appearance and age, he wouldn't have many years to live. That way, she could marry him, wait a few years until his death, and inherit his large inheritance and restaurant franchise. The lady didn't feel guilty about taking advantage of the lowly man, and she didn't mind lying and manipulating for a while as long as she would get paid much in the end. That was all the fruitless young woman cared about. The strategy was succeeding. Mr. Alfred, an elderly man with gray hair who already walked with a limp, was so happy with the young woman's hard work that he decided to take her out to dinner at a friend's restaurant outside of the city. And the young lady gave her best effort during this dinner. Jennifer seduced and praised the gentleman all night, which didn't take long to give in and fall for the attractive woman's charms. He was honest with the young woman and told a little about his love life. His wife had died 5 years ago. He met her in high school and they married young, building their entire restaurant empire and living their entire lives together. A few weeks later, dating occasionally and getting to know each other better, the young woman asked the man on a date. The old man was surprised that a woman like that would want to be with a gentleman his age, but he was flattered and gladly accepted the request. And the young woman dedicated herself, took the old man to places he didn't even know existed, introduced new places and places in the city that were amazing, and that she hadn't visited either because they were expensive places she couldn't afford. Naturally, Mr. Alfred fell head over heels in love with Jennifer after receiving such tender care and admiration from the young woman to the elderly guy. With her, he experienced new things and met people he would have never met otherwise. He was joyful and delighted in a way he hadn't been in a long time. So he decided to do something extravagant, something he didn't usually do. He hired a yacht to do something that not even the young woman expected. They had already been together for a few months and the gentleman didn't want to waste time. He was happy and had his old ways of a man his age. He wanted to propose to Jennifer on that boat. He chose an afternoon with clear skies and great weather. He wanted everything perfect for ordering. And so he did. The young woman was surprised, but soon said yes, leaving Mr. Alfred very happy. However, even with such happiness, he noticed that the young woman spent a lot of time looking at her cell phone, taking pictures only of herself and talking to other people. He didn't care, as she could have been breaking the news to her friends. What he hadn't realized was that the young woman spent a lot every week, with clothes from the most famous brands in the world, shoes that cost the price of luxury apartments, and very expensive jewelry. The young woman behaved and already appeared to be a millionaire. Jennifer managed to adapt to the luxurious way of life. It seemed that she had been born and raised in this lifestyle. A fact that raised concern in the bank manager of Mr. Alfred, as he had never spent that amount of money before. Despite being rich for many decades now, he has built a luxury restaurant empire from nothing. He was born poor in a small town and went to study gastronomy, starting his large chain of restaurants in the kitchen of his small and modest apartment. Mr. Alfred never cared about money and led a simple life, just spending money on his own business and not buying houses or luxury items. So the bank manager called him just to see if everything was okay, due to the large amount of money coming out of his account. It was at this point that the old man began to wonder about the woman's intentions. Already suspicious of long cell phone calls and spending hours, sometimes days, away from home, Mr. Alfred began to get apprehensive that she was only interested in his money. He was married for the majority of his life, so he never worried about it because his late wife didn't value money the way he did. He was living in agony and terror of being bullied every month as a result of it eating away at him internally. Had the elderly man chosen incorrectly to wed the young woman? Mr. Alfred decided to contact a friend of his and hired a private investigator to track down the woman for a few weeks while taking daily photos of her in an effort to move on with his life and put an end to his agony. When the modest man received the detective's final report, he couldn't believe it. Jennifer cheated on him almost every day and still used her fortune to buy gifts for her lovers. Mr. Alfred was devastated. He had trusted a woman for the first time in all these years since his wife had passed away, and this was the result. Despite being sad and unwilling to continue with it, the gentleman thought he could pay back the ungrateful and liar young woman, knew he needed to act as soon as possible, and reduced the limit of all his cards that were in the woman's possession. The first time she tried to swipe the card and it was denied, she was in disbelief. She tried to contact her husband, but couldn't, being forced to return all her purchases from the store and experienced the greatest shame of her life. She was embarrassed to see that all the other rich people in the luxury store were staring at her, giving her the look she'd always received her entire life. The woman was furious. The woman didn't understand what had happened, but in her head, her plan was still working perfectly and going exactly as planned. So he tried to follow through and just resolve the situation as best he could. When she got home, she questioned her husband about why that had happened. He denied knowing the reason, said it was a problem with the bank, and said he would call the next day to solve it. She tried to disguise it and asked why the card had been declined as something casual, but she couldn't contain her angry expression and how furious she was about it. Alfred, at that moment, could look at the woman as she really was, without that filter of enchantment that he himself had put on the woman. He saw what she really was and what she cared about, and he wouldn't let go of all the lies. The next day, he did go to the bank, but not to solve the credit card problem, but to amend his marriage contract and inheritance. His late wife, the woman with whom Mr. Alfred was married before Jennifer, could not have children, leaving the old man without heirs. He had no brothers and his family had passed away. Therefore, everyone always questioned what would be the destination of that money and all their businesses. Unfortunately, the restaurateur's plan was interrupted by his sudden death. The gentleman had never told anyone, but he had been treating cancer for a few years and knew he was in his last days. He left very sad, as he felt betrayed by the last person he trusted in his life, but he felt he could make his last act something special, so he left a letter with his faithful butler how he wanted his last goodbye. Faced with the death of her husband, Jennifer planned his funeral exactly as Mr. Alfred had left it written as he wished, inviting all of his oldest friends and having his will read aloud. Despite being suspicious and not quite understanding why, the woman did exactly what was written, as a way of softening everything she had done to the old man. The reading began by thanking everyone who was able to attend and talking about one by one and how important they had been in the old man's life. He also remembered his late wife and said that he was happy to finally find the love of his life and that they could be together for eternity now, making his current wife very uncomfortable. When the part of his current wife arrived, he wrote that the woman was very important to him, made the last years of his life very special, said that the young woman made him live new and unusual experiences and know beautiful places, and so thank you. Mr. Alfred also said that he believed he had also made his wife very happy, and for that reason he had left her one of the most important items he could leave, a picture of himself framed in a gigantic painting, letting out a beautiful laugh, something that people who lived they didn't see much of him doing with the old man. He was always serious and didn't smile very often, and a picture of him smiling was almost unheard of. So all the other guests thought it was a special gift for Jennifer, something not everyone could see. But the young woman got the message right away. He knew about her plan. I always knew. He'd left that giant photo laughing as a mockery of Jennifer, a way of giving his answer to everything she'd done. As for the whole fortune, which was the next part to be read in the will, the old man had a lot more than anyone realized. He started to invest a good part of his money in recent years and made exorbitant profits, causing him to almost double his fortune. But all that money would go to charities, leaving Jennifer with no penny, no property or car. All of these would be sold and the money would also be donated. His restaurants would go to his old friend, who only owned one restaurant, the one the old man had taken Jennifer to dinner for the first time. Also, all items purchased in recent years would be sold equally, causing all of the young woman's clothing and luxury items to be taken out of her possession. The woman couldn't believe it. Her entire plan had failed. I was right where I'd started, with no money and no job. She was devastated. She couldn't contain her anger and fury in front of everyone. She was crying at the same time as she was screaming. She didn't know what else to do. She was devastated that the old man had realized the whole farce. She became known throughout the city after the embarrassment she received when reading her ex-husband's will and never got the social advancement she wanted, also losing her few friends she had before and being forced to go back to work at the old pet shop, going back to bathing animals and living the unhappy life she had before. Mr. Alfred died sad to have been betrayed, but happy to remember that he had already found his soulmate before in his life, which was his late wife. He died remembering that he had already found his true love and that Jennifer had just been a gold digger who, in the end, didn't get what she wanted. What do you think about this story? Please make the internet cleaner and full of good knowledge, share it with a friend, and let us know what you think in the comments. See you.